The Galactic Forum was the most important place in the entire galaxy. It was a massive space station, bigger than most moons, floating in orbit around a star called HFY. This star belonged to no one. It was neutral ground. For 12,000 years, alien species from across the Milky Way had sent their representatives here to talk, to argue, to make peace, and to solve problems. 847 different species had seats in the Grand Assembly. Some were ancient beyond measure. The HFY had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. The Delphini had built underwater cities on 1,000 worlds. The Kachafi had spread across an entire arm of the galaxy, their hive minds connected across impossible distances. And then there were the humans. Humanity had only joined the Forum 300 years ago. In galactic terms, this was nothing, a blink, a heartbeat. The elder races looked at humans the way a grandfather might look at a noisy child at a family dinner. They were tolerated, sometimes they were useful, but they were not taken seriously. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the human delegation's platform in the Grand Assembly. She was a tall woman with dark hair and tired eyes. She had been Earth's voice in the Forum for 7 years now. 7 years of fighting, 7 years of losing. Today was no different. The massive chamber stretched out before her. Thousands of platforms floated at different heights, each one holding delegates from different species. The HFY delegation sat highest of all. They were beings made of living crystal, their bodies glowing with soft light that changed color with their moods. Right now, High Speaker Kethvorian was glowing a satisfied blue. He had just won another vote. Elena watched as the holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the results. The motion to send aid to the Outer Rim had failed, again. This was the 14th time. The Outer Rim was the edge of known space. Out there, dozens of small species lived on scattered worlds. They had no great fleets, no powerful allies, and right now they were dying. A plague called the Silence had appeared 6 months ago. No one knew where it came from. It killed quickly and spread faster. Entire cities went quiet in days. The infected stopped speaking first. Then they stopped moving. Then they stopped breathing. 40 billion beings were sick or dying. 40 billion. The number was so large it was hard to understand. It was like the entire population of Earth, 10 times over. Human medical ships could help. Human doctors had already developed treatments that showed promise. But the Forum would not allow it. Sending aid required approval. Approval required votes. And the HFY kept blocking every attempt. The matter is not our concern, High Speaker Kethvorian announced. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated into hundreds of languages by the Forum systems. The affected species failed to maintain proper quarantine protocols. They brought this upon themselves. Natural consequences must be allowed to proceed. Natural consequences. Elena felt sick. He was talking about children dying in their mother's arms. He was talking about entire civilizations being erased, and he called it natural consequences. She knew why the HFY were blocking the aid. It had nothing to do with quarantine protocols. The Outer Rim had rich deposits of rare minerals. If the current inhabitants died out, those resources would be available for whoever arrived first. The HFY had been positioning their mining fleets for weeks. Elena looked down at her datapad. A message had arrived from Earth 2 hours ago. She had read it many times. The message was from the Secretary General himself. It was short and simple. Ambassador Vasquez, the situation has become unacceptable. You have full authority to act as you see fit. Whatever you decide, Earth stands behind you. Good luck. Full authority. Those 2 words carried enormous weight. They meant that whatever she did next, her government would support her. They also meant that whatever happened next was her responsibility. She took a deep breath. Her heart was beating fast. What she was about to do would change everything. There would be no going back. She pressed the summons glyph on her platform. The human delegation requests the floor. A ripple of surprise passed through the chamber. Humans requesting formal address was unusual. When it happened, things tended to get interesting. Several delegates leaned forward. Others activated recording devices. The Vreth-Kai crystals flickered with annoyance. "The floor recognizes the human delegation," said the ceremonial speaker, a small, furry creature from a species known for their perfect neutrality. Elena stepped onto the transport disc. It carried her down to the central dais, a circular platform that floated in the exact center of the chamber. From here, she could see every delegation, and every delegation could see her. She stood straight. She kept her voice calm, but inside, she was burning. "Distinguished representatives," she began. "For 300 years, humanity has participated in this forum in good faith. We have contributed our soldiers to peacekeeping forces. We have sent our engineers to build stations and repair ships. We have offered our doctors to heal the sick. Our diplomats have worked hard to find compromise and keep peace." She paused. The chamber was silent. Everyone was listening. "And in that time, we have watched this body fail. Not once, not twice, but again and again and again." The silence grew heavier. "The outer rim is dying. Right now, as we stand here in this beautiful chamber, 40 billion people are suffering. Children are watching their parents die. Parents are holding their dead children. Cities that took centuries to build are becoming graveyards, and we have the power to help them. We have the ships, we have the medicine, we have the people who want to go and make a difference." Her voice grew harder. "But we are not allowed, because procedure must be followed, because committees must meet, because certain trading interests might be affected, because some of you do not see those dying people as worth saving." High Speaker Kethvorian's crystals flared red with anger. The human delegate will remember her place. She is a junior representative of a junior species. She does not have the right to lecture this assembly. Elena turned to face him directly. My place is to represent my species, and my species has had enough." She lifted her datapad. With one touch, she sent a document to every delegate in the chamber. 847 notifications chimed at once. Effective immediately, the United Earth government formally withdraws from the Galactic Forum. The chamber exploded into chaos. The Grand Assembly had never seen anything like this. Delegates were shouting. Warning lights flashed on dozens of platforms. The translation system struggled to keep up with the noise. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the central dais, completely calm. She waited for the chaos to settle. It took several minutes. "This is madness," one of the Kachathi delegates clicked. "No species has ever left the forum, not in 12,000 years." "Then we will be the first," Elena replied. High Speaker Kethvorian pushed forward on his floating platform. His crystal body was glowing bright red, almost orange. In Vreth-Kai body language, this meant extreme anger. "You cannot do this," he said. "There are treaties, obligations. Your species signed binding agreements when you joined the forum." "Yes, we did," Elena agreed, "and those agreements included promises from the forum as well. Promises of mutual aid, promises of fair representation. Promises that all species would be treated with respect." She paused. "You broke those promises first, not us." "This is a bluff," Kethvorian said. "Your species needs the forum. You need our protection. You need access to our trade networks. Without us, you are nothing but a small collection of worlds on an unimportant arm of the galaxy." Elena smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Perhaps you are right," she said. "Perhaps we do need you. But here is the question you should be asking yourself, High Speaker. Do you need us?" She activated another display on her datapad. A list appeared on the main holographic screen. It was very long. These are all the services that humanity currently provides to Forum members. Peacekeeping forces in 47 conflict zones. Engineering teams maintaining stations and infrastructure for over 200 species. Medical personnel serving in hospitals on 90 different worlds. Emergency response units, search and rescue operations. Disaster relief coordination. She scrolled through the list. It kept going. We also maintain the primary communication relays in 3 sectors. We operate the largest civilian shipping fleet in the Forum. We manage the early warning system for solar events that protects half of the core worlds. The chamber had gone quiet again. Many delegates were looking at the list with growing concern. All of this, Elena said, will stop. Immediately. Our peacekeeping forces will return to Earth within the week. Our engineering teams will pack their tools and leave. Our doctors will come home. Every human ship, every human soldier, every human worker will be withdrawn. A delegate from a species called the Meridians raised a tentacle. But our trade corridor, your patrol ships protect our cargo vessels from pirates. Yes, they do, Elena said. And I am sorry for that. But our ships will no longer be available. You will need to find another solution. This is unacceptable, Kethvorian shouted. You cannot simply abandon your responsibilities. Elena turned to him with cold eyes. They were never our responsibilities. We volunteered. We helped because we wanted to help, because we believed in what the Forum was supposed to represent. Unity, cooperation, the idea that together we could accomplish more than we could alone. She shook her head. But you never saw it that way. To you, we were just useful, convenient, cheap labor with a smile. She stepped back from the center of the dais. So now we are leaving, and you will discover exactly how convenient we were. Wait, the voice came from the Delphini delegation. Delegate Thrivine was an old and respected member of the Forum. Her species lived in water, so she floated in a large hover tank filled with warm liquid. Her translator made her voice sound musical. There must be another way. We can call a special session. We can discuss reforms. We can find a compromise. Elena looked at her. Of all the elder species, the Delphini had always been the kindest to humanity. Thrivine herself had helped Elena many times over the years. I wish that were true, Delegate Thrivine, Elena said softly. I really do. But we have been asking for reforms for 100 years. We have been begging for compromise. And nothing ever changes. The same species hold all the power. The same species make all the decisions. And beings die while committees talk. She gestured toward the exit. There are 40 billion people in the Outer Rim who cannot wait for another committee. They cannot wait for another vote. They are dying right now, today, and we are going to help them. The Forum forbids unilateral action, Kethvorian said. If you send ships to the Outer Rim without authorization, you will be in violation of galactic law. Then we will be in violation of galactic law, Elena shrugged. We are already leaving the Forum. Your laws no longer apply to us. She began walking toward the exit. The other human delegates fell in behind her. There were only 12 of them, 12 humans walking out of a chamber filled with thousands of aliens from hundreds of species. It should have looked weak. Instead, somehow, it looked terrifying. If you do this, Kethvorian called after her, there will be consequences. The Vrethkai will not forget this insult. Elena stopped at the door. She turned back one last time. Good, she said. Neither will we. The door slid open. The human delegation walked through. Behind them, they could hear the chamber erupting into argument again. Accusations. Blame. Panic. Elena did not look back. In the corridor outside, her senior aide was waiting. A young man named David Park. He looked pale. Ambassador, he said, Did we really just do that? Yes, Elena replied. We really did. What happens now? Elena kept walking. Her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. Now we show them what happens when humans stop asking for permission. They reached the docking bay where their ship was waiting. It was a small diplomatic vessel, elegant but unarmed. As they boarded, Elena looked out the window at the vast Forum station. Lights glittered across its surface. Thousands of ships floated around it. For 300 years, humanity had tried to belong here, tried to prove themselves, tried to earn respect. No more. Take us to the fleet rendezvous point, Elena told the pilot. Yes, Ambassador. Course laid in. We will arrive in 6 hours. She was tired. So tired. But there was no time to rest. The real work was just beginning. 6 hours later, she looked out the window again. This time, the view was different. Instead of the Forum station, she saw ships. Human ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Medical vessels with bright red crosses painted on their hulls. Cargo ships loaded with food, medicine, and supplies. Engineering vessels carrying equipment to build field hospitals and water purification systems. And surrounding them all, a wall of warships, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, the entire Earth defense fleet redeployed from across known space. A message appeared on her console. It was from Admiral Chen, commander of the fleet. Ambassador, we are ready. The outer rim is 3 days away at maximum speed. Just give the word. Elena typed her reply with steady hands. The word is given. Let's go save some lives. Hundreds of ships, carrying thousands of humans who had volunteered for this mission. They had left their homes, their families, their safe lives in Forum space. They had come because someone needed help, and helping was the right thing to do. Behind them, the Galactic Forum watched in confusion and fear. Ahead of them, 40 billion dying beings waited for hope. The humans were coming. The first week after humanity left the Forum was chaos. Nobody had prepared for this. For 12,000 years, the Forum had been stable. Species joined. Species argued. Species sometimes fought small wars. But nobody left. The idea was unthinkable. The Forum was civilization itself. To leave was to become an outsider, a barbarian, a nothing. But the humans had not become nothing. They had become something far more dangerous. They had become unpredictable. On the third day, the Kachathi Collective experienced its first major crisis in centuries. Their defensive systems began failing. Warning lights flashed across 100 stations. Ships drifted without power. Communication networks went dark. The Kachathi were an insect-like species with brilliant minds for mathematics and strategy. But they had one weakness. They had no patience for boring work. For 200 years, they had hired human technicians to maintain their systems. It was cheaper than training their own people. It was easier. The humans did good work and never complained. Now those humans were gone, and nobody remembered how anything worked. We need to find the maintenance protocols. One Kachathi commander clicked urgently. There must be records somewhere. There were no records. The humans had kept everything in their own systems. They had offered many times to train Kachathi workers to take over. The offers had always been refused. Why waste time learning when you could just pay someone else to do it? On the 5th day, pirates attacked the Meridian Trade Corridor. The Meridians were a peaceful species. They were merchants and traders, not fighters. For 60 years, human patrol ships had protected their cargo vessels. The pirates knew this. The pirates had learned to stay away. But the human ships were gone now. The first attack destroyed 3 cargo vessels. The second attack took 7 more. By the end of the week, the entire trade corridor was considered unsafe. Shipping prices tripled. Insurance companies refused to cover the routes. The Meridian economy began to collapse. High Speaker Kethvorian watched these developments from his private chambers with satisfaction. Yes, there was chaos. Yes, some forum members were suffering. But this was necessary. The humans needed to learn their place. Once they saw the consequences of their actions, they would come crawling back. They would beg to return, and the Vrethkai would be there to set the terms. His satisfaction lasted 9 days. On the 9th day, intelligence reports arrived. The Thessian Concordat was moving. The Thessians were an old enemy of the Vrethkai. For centuries, the two powers had faced each other across a disputed border. They had not fought an open war only because human peacekeeping forces had stood between them. The humans had built stations in the neutral zone. They had patrolled both sides equally. They had kept the peace. Now those peacekeepers were gone. The neutral zone was empty. And the Thessians were not stupid. Their fleets entered the first disputed system on day 10. By day 14, they had claimed 3 more. The local populations, a mix of minor species who had always relied on forum protection, sent desperate messages to the Grand Assembly. The forum did nothing. It could not decide what to do. Some delegates wanted to condemn the Thessians. Others pointed out that the Vrethkai had done similar things in the past. A vote was called. The vote failed. Another committee was formed. While the forum debated, the Thessians kept advancing. Kethvorian was furious. This was not supposed to happen. The humans leaving was supposed to make humanity look weak. Instead, it was making everyone else look weak. He called an emergency meeting of the major powers. The Vrethkai, the Delphini, the Kachathi, and a dozen other senior species. They argued for hours. "We must find temporary replacements for the human services," Delegate Thrivine suggested. "Other species must step forward to fill the gaps." "With what resources?" a Kachathi representative clicked. "Our own systems are failing. We cannot help others when we cannot help ourselves." "Then we must convince the humans to return," another delegate said. "They will not return," Kethvorian said darkly. "Not while they believe they are winning. We must show them that they need us more than we need them." "How?" Thrivine asked. "What exactly can we threaten them with? They have already left. They are already outside our laws. They have the largest military fleet in the galaxy, and they are not afraid to use it." The meetings always ended without agreement now. Meanwhile, the human fleet arrived at the outer rim. The dying colonies saw the ships appear in their skies and could not believe it. For months, they had sent desperate messages to the forum. They had begged for help. They had watched their people die while distant powers argued about procedure and protocol. Now, without warning, help had arrived. The first medical ships landed on Rethva Prime, the hardest-hit world. Human doctors in protective suits walked down the ramps. They carried cases of medicine. They carried equipment for field hospitals. They carried hope. "We are here to help," the lead doctor announced through her translator. "We will set up treatment centers in every major city. We have enough supplies for 6 months. More ships are coming." The local governor, a being who had not slept in weeks, fell to his knees. In his species, this was a gesture of deepest gratitude. "Why?" he asked. "The forum abandoned us. They said we were not worth saving. Why did you come?" The doctor smiled behind her mask. "Because you needed help," she said simply. "That was enough." Over the following weeks, the human operation expanded. Medical ships moved from world to world. Treatment centers appeared in cities that had been dying. Human engineers built quarantine barriers to stop the plague from spreading. Human soldiers stood guard at supply depots, not to conquer, but to protect. The death rates began to fall. Not everywhere, not immediately, but the curve was bending. The silence was being pushed back. News of this spread across the galaxy. The forum tried to control the information, but it was impossible. Too many ships carried messages. Too many people talked. Everyone knew what was happening. They had taken their ships, their soldiers, their doctors, and their engineers. And then they had done what the Forum refused to do. They had saved 40 billion lives. The Kachathi on their failing stations heard the news, and wondered what other jobs they had given to humans without thinking. The Meridians and their collapsing trade routes heard the news, and wondered why they had never offered humanity more respect. The Vrethkai in their comfortable towers heard the news, and began for the first time to feel afraid. Because if the humans could do this without the Forum, what else could they do? What did they even need the Forum for? And if they never came back, what would happen to everyone else? These questions had no easy answers. The Forum debated them endlessly. The debates went nowhere. The committees formed and reformed, and produced reports that nobody read. While the galaxy argued, the humans worked. They did not ask for permission. They did not wait for approval. They did not care about procedure or protocol or proper channels. They simply did what needed to be done. And slowly, the people they saved began to love them for it. 3 months after humanity walked out of the Grand Assembly, the Galactic Forum was falling apart. The problems had started small. Missing technicians, unprotected trade routes, unstable border zones. But small problems had grown into big problems. Big problems had become disasters. The Kachathi Collective was in civil war. Without human engineers to maintain their systems, their hive queens had lost the ability to communicate across great distances. Rival factions had emerged. Old disputes had turned violent. Ships were fighting ships. Stations were burning. The Meridian Trade Corridor had collapsed completely. Pirate attacks happened daily now. Most merchant ships refused to travel through the region at all. The economic damage was spreading to connected species. Supplies were running short. And on the Vrethkai border, the Thessian Concordat continued its slow advance. High Speaker Kethvorian stood in his private chambers, staring at a map of the galaxy. Red markers showed conflict zones. Orange markers showed economic crises. Yellow markers showed social unrest. There were very few areas without markers. He had been wrong. He could admit that now, in the privacy of his own mind. He had thought the humans were bluffing. He had thought they would return within days, apologizing and begging for forgiveness. He had thought the galaxy could survive without them. He had been completely, terribly wrong. A chime sounded. His aide entered. "High Speaker, the Emergency Council has gathered. They are waiting for your guidance." Kethvorian turned from the map. His crystal body was dull and gray. In Vrethkai terms, this showed exhaustion and defeat. "Tell them I will join them shortly." The council meeting was held in a smaller chamber than the Grand Assembly. Only the most powerful species were represented. Vrethkai, Delphini, what remained of the Kachathi leadership, the Thessians, who had demanded a seat at the table as a condition for stopping their advance. "We cannot continue like this," Delegate Thrivine said. Her voice was tired. The Delphini had been trying to hold the Forum together for months. They were failing. Every week brings new crises. Every day we lose more stability. The Forum is dying. "The Forum is not dying," Kethvorian replied, but there was no conviction in his voice. "We simply need time to adjust." "Adjust to what?" the Thessian representative asked. He was a tall being with 4 arms and a face that seemed designed for contempt. "To being powerless? To watching everything we built collapse around us?" The humans did not just leave, High Speaker. They exposed how weak we truly were. Nobody argued with him. That was the worst part. Even Kethvorian's own allies could not defend the Vrethkai position anymore. "There is only one solution," Thrivine said. "We must ask the humans to return." "They will refuse," another delegate said. "Perhaps, but we must try, and we must offer them something in exchange. Something real, not empty promises, not vague commitments. They must see that things will be different. Kathvorian's crystals flickered. What are you suggesting? Thrivine fixed him with her large dark eyes. Reforms. Real reforms. The kind the humans have been requesting for a century. Impossible. The elder species will never agree. The elder species are watching their empires crumble, Thrivine interrupted. The Kachathi hive queens are fighting each other because they cannot keep their networks running. The Meridians are facing economic collapse. Your own border is being eaten by the Thessians. How much more must we lose before we accept that the old ways have failed? The chamber was silent. Kathvorian wanted to argue. He wanted to defend the traditions that had served the Vrethkai for millennia. But the words would not come, because Thrivine was right. Everything was failing. A delegation, he said finally. We will send a delegation to Earth. We will discuss terms. You will lead it personally, Thrivine said. Nothing less will show them we are serious. Kathvorian's crystals went dark with horror. A high speaker traveling to a junior species to beg for help? It was unthinkable. It was humiliating beyond measure. But so was watching his empire fall apart. Very well, he said quietly. I will lead the delegation. The journey to Earth took 12 days. Kathvorian spent most of that time preparing arguments, offers and counter-offers. He was a skilled negotiator. He had won countless debates in the Grand Assembly. Surely he could convince the humans to see reason. They were received in Geneva, in an old building that humans had kept from their ancient past. It was small by galactic standards, plain, almost ugly, but the humans seemed to value it greatly. Secretary General Marcus Chen received them in a conference room with wooden furniture and glass windows. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He did not stand when they entered. He did not offer traditional greetings. High Speaker, he said simply, please sit. Kathvorian sat. His delegation arranged themselves around him. Across the table, the human delegation watched with unreadable faces. You want us back, Chen said. It was not a question. Kathvorian forced his crystals to show confidence. The Forum recognizes that certain adjustments may be necessary. We are prepared to discuss modifications to existing agreements that would give humanity a more significant role in decision-making processes. Adjustments, Chen repeated. Modifications. He smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. Let me tell you what we have been doing while you debated adjustments and modifications. He touched a control. A holographic display appeared above the table. The outer rim plague is 70% contained. Our medical teams have saved approximately 12 billion lives so far. We expect full elimination of the disease within 4 months. The numbers hung in the air. 12 billion lives saved. The species we helped have formed a coalition, Chen continued. They call themselves the Rim Alliance. There are currently 43 species in the alliance, with more joining every week. They have formally requested permanent partnership with Earth. Kathvorian's crystals flickered with alarm. A separate alliance? Outside the Forum. That is correct. They are not interested in rejoining the Forum. They have seen what the Forum does when people need help. They watched you debate while their children died. They will not forget that. You cannot do this, Kathvorian said. A separate power block would destabilize the entire galaxy. We can do it. We are doing it. Shen leaned forward. While you argued about procedure, we built something new, something better. The question now is not whether we will return to the Forum. The question is whether the Forum will survive without us. The conference room was very quiet. What would it take? Delegate Thrivine asked softly. She had insisted on joining the delegation. What would bring you back? Chen studied her for a long moment. Then he began listing conditions. Full voting reform. No more weighted seats based on how long a species has been in the Forum. Votes based on population and contribution. Humanitarian Action Authority that cannot be vetoed. A binding commitment to act when lives are at stake, not just talk. He paused. And a formal apology from the Vrethkai hegemony to the Outer Rim. Kethvorian's crystals flared bright orange. An apology? For what? We did nothing wrong. We simply followed established protocols. 40 billion beings almost died while you followed protocols, Shen interrupted. Your mining fleets were positioning to claim their resources before the bodies were cold. That is what you will apologize for. I will not. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Shen stood. The meeting was over. Kethvorian sat in shocked silence. He had come here expecting negotiation, give and take, the usual games of diplomacy. Instead, he had been given an ultimatum: accept everything or get nothing. The worst part was that he knew, deep in his crystal core, that the humans could afford to walk away. They had built their Rim alliance. They had proven they could survive without the Forum. They were growing stronger, while the Forum grew weaker. The power had shifted, and there was nothing he could do about it. The Rim Alliance is holding its first summit next month, Chen said from the doorway. You are welcome to send observers. Perhaps you will learn something useful. The delegation returned to the Forum in silence. Kethvorian knew what he had to do. He hated it with every fiber of his being. But survival demanded sacrifice. The old ways were dying. Something new was being born. And the humans were leading the way. 1 year after humanity walked out of the Grand Assembly, the Galactic Forum voted on the Chen reforms. The debate lasted 17 days. It was the longest and most bitter argument in Forum history. Ancient alliances shattered. Old friendships ended. 3 species withdrew in protest, declaring that they would rather die than accept such humiliation. The Vrethkai nearly tore themselves apart. High Speaker Kethvorian tried to block the reforms. He used every trick he knew. He called in every favor. He threatened and promised and manipulated. But it was not enough. A new faction had risen among his own people. They called themselves the Reformists. They were led by a young Vrethkai named Thelvessa, whose crystals burned with fierce determination. She had watched the Forum crumble. She had seen the Rim Alliance grow strong, while the old powers weakened. She understood what Kethvorian could not accept. The future belonged to those who could change. Our choice is simple, Thelvessa announced in the Vrethkai Council chambers. We can cling to our pride and watch our civilization fall, or we can bend, just a little, and survive. She turned to face Kethvorian directly. I mean no disrespect, High Speaker. You have served our people well for many years, but your time has passed. The galaxy has changed, and we must change with it. The vote among the Vrethkai was close. Thelvessa won by less than 100 voices, but she won. Kethvorian was removed from his position. He retired to a distant moon, his crystals forever dimmed with shame. With the Vrethkai reformists in control, the final Forum vote went forward. It passed by a narrow margin. The Chen reforms became law. Humanity was invited to return. Ambassador Elena Vasquez entered the Grand Assembly for the first time in a year. The chamber looked the same as before. Thousands of platforms, hundreds of species. The same vast space where she had walked out 12 months ago. But everything had changed. She did not walk to the junior delegates section, where humans had always been placed. Instead, she took her position on the newly created Executive Council. This was a smaller platform, higher than the others, where the most important decisions would now be made. 4 seats, 4 species. Vrethkai, represented by Thelvessa. Delphini, represented by old delegate Thrivine. Kachathi, represented by their new Hive Queen, who had emerged from the Civil War with a deep appreciation for cooperation. And humanity, represented by Elena herself. The Rim Alliance had joined the Forum as a single bloc. 43 species who had learned that humans kept their promises. They filled nearly a quarter of the Grand Assembly now. Their delegates were fiercely loyal to Earth. They had seen human doctors save their children. They had seen human soldiers protect their homes. They would never forget. The Reformed Galactic Forum will now come to order, the ceremonial speaker announced. Elena looked out at the vast chamber. 1 year ago, she had stood at the central dais and announced humanity's withdrawal. She had watched the chaos that followed. She had wondered in dark moments if she had made a terrible mistake. Now she knew the answer. After the first session ended, Delegate Thriveen approached her. The old Delphine moved slowly these days. Her hover tank hummed with the effort of keeping up. Ambassador Vasquez, she said, "May I speak with you privately?" They found a quiet corridor away from the crowds. Through the windows, stars glittered in the endless black. "I must admit something," Thriveen said. "When you walked out of the assembly that day, I thought it was the end of everything. I thought the galaxy would collapse. I thought you had doomed us all." Elena nodded. "I understand. Many people thought the same thing. But you did not doom us. You saved us, not just the Outer Rim, all of us. You forced us to see what we had become. A gathering of ancient powers too proud to change, too comfortable to act, too afraid to do what was right." Thriveen's translator hummed softly. "You terrified us, and we needed to be terrified." "We did not mean to cause fear," Elena said. "We only wanted to help those who needed help." "Yes, that is what makes your species so frightening." Thriveen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You simply do things. You do not wait for permission. You do not worry about tradition. You see a problem, and you fix it. The rest of us talk for centuries. You act in days." Elena smiled slightly. "That is not always a good thing. Sometimes we act too quickly. Sometimes we make mistakes. But you learn from your mistakes and try again. That is more than most species ever do." Thriveen was quiet for a moment. "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Elena said. "When you walked out that day, were you afraid?" Elena thought about it. She remembered standing at the central dais. She remembered the faces of every delegate staring at her. She remembered the weight of her decision, pressing down on her shoulders. "Yes," she said. "I was terrified. I had no idea if it would work. I had no idea what would happen next. I just knew that I could not stand there and do nothing while people died. And if the Forum had not reformed, if we had not asked you back, then we would have built something better without you," Elena said simply, without pride or threat. It was just a fact. That was always the backup plan. We were already building the Rim Alliance. We would have continued building it. More species would have joined. Eventually, the Forum would have become irrelevant, and something new would have taken its place. Thriveen made her laughing sound again. "Your species is terrifying, Ambassador." "We prefer the word determined." "I am not certain there is a difference." Elena laughed too. A real laugh, warm and bright. Several nearby delegates turned in surprise. Humans were not known for laughter in the halls of power. But perhaps that would change now. "Perhaps there is no difference," Elena admitted. "But at least now we are determined together." They returned to the Grand Assembly for the second session. The new Executive Council took their positions. Felvesa proposed the first action under the reformed procedures. It was a vote to send permanent aid stations to the Outer Rim, funded by contributions from all Forum members. The vote passed unanimously. Elena watched the results appear on the holographic display. No blocking, no committees, no endless delays. Just a problem identified, a solution proposed, and action taken. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Forum was actually working. Later that evening, Elena returned to the human quarters. Her staff was celebrating. The reforms were passed. Humanity had a seat at the highest table. Everything they had worked for was finally real. Her aide, David Park, handed her a glass of something celebratory. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it." Elena took the glass, but did not drink. She was looking out the window at the Forum station, its lights glittering against the stars. "We did," she agreed, "but this is not the end. It is the beginning. Now we have to prove that we deserve the trust they have placed in us. We have to show them that our way is better, that action is better than talk, that courage is better than caution. Do you think we can?" It was a tired smile, but a real one. "I think we have been proving that for 300 years. The only difference is that now they are finally listening." She raised her glass. "To the future," she said. "May we be brave enough to build it." David raised his glass as well. "To humanity," he replied. "May the galaxy never underestimate us again." They drank together as the stars turned slowly outside the window. The Forum had changed. The galaxy had changed. And at the center of it all, standing firm where they had always stood, were the humans. Small, young, impetuous, determined. The galaxy had watched in horror as humans deserted the Forum. Now the galaxy would watch in wonder as humans showed them how to move forward. It was only the first chapter of a new story, but it was a very good beginning.